For today's webinar, we had a topic about testing SAP and Salesforce in the cloud and how can we do it, what can we do about it? And thank you, Tesena. I think we didn't have any interest from Tesena's side, so I'll get straight to the business of what we are actually doing, why am I here, and what's this whole thing about. On the agenda, we have a little bit about Qentinel, who are we, who am I, why am I here, and then about testing the SAP ecosystem and talking about test automation. Then we have some stuff about Qentinel Paste. This is actually the wrong way order, but you'll probably get the info anyway. And we have a couple of demos on actually showing how we can test SAP on the cloud and really easily. And actually, I was planning on talking about one customer case, Metso case, but we actually now have two as I got some really good data from one of our client cases. So we were talking with Tesena about what should we present. We were talking about that if you have some actual numbers and some actual statistics about how the test automation went and what actually was achieved. I got another case, which is the tax office of Finland, and we got some really good data from there that I can share with you guys, so you can actually see what's been handled with our platform. So who am I? I'm Henri. Hey. I'm a software professional. I've been working in 3 different companies now and doing mostly DevOps, development, testing, quality assurance, and then a lot of software development as well, and been involved in a couple of my own companies back in the day. Have a master's in software engineering. I did a foray to computational systems biology back then. Back then when I did that, well, it's basically ML. You did a lot of stuff with Python on actually sequencing the human genome. And back then I decided that who in their right mind would want to do this kind of data stuff and do all of these neural networks, as these are not really used for anything. And it's kind of interesting that now we've ended up in the situation that the same stuff is basically being used everywhere in nearly every single business and not just in computational systems biology. I'm doing a thesis on software development on startups, how actually the software asset startups evolve. So I've actually gone now 20 pages written. So hopefully I won't have to share the same slide with the same 20 pages for the next half a year. So let's see how that goes. Also a lot interested in sci-fi and science fiction, where we're going, and the whole software engineering process. So hopefully getting like some of my visions out there and why I think this automated testing is a really big part of the whole software development cycle. Qentinel, the company that I work for now, is a robotic software testing company. We have a history on from 2002. We actually divested a part of the company that was in the bottom. We used to do a lot of consulting also, but now we totally focused on the product that we're doing, which is the Pace platform in the cloud. So only cloud testing, only based on sorry, speaking quite fast. Only based on open source. We have based most of the technology on a robot framework, which is actually from Qentinel back in the day, back from 2008, 2002 maybe. Then Qentinel developed robot framework for Nokia, and we are part of the Robot Framework Foundation as well as a members, and we're platinum sponsors for the whole robot framework Robocon event, which is a really big event on that side. So what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? We want to improve the quality of life by improving the quality of software. As software is nowadays everywhere, and you have bugs everywhere, and you have faulty software everywhere, and we want to improve that. Currently, we have offices in Finland, Germany, and the US, and serving basically globally everybody. And how we exist to create complete confidence in your code. And because we've had some really big clients now, we actually, our impact is at least 500 million people. I think it's even more now as some of those bigger companies that we had as our clients. For example, Kone, which is an elevator company, you might see a lot of their escalators everywhere. Those are also nowadays run by software, and they're not an escalator or elevator company anymore. They're a mobility company or people flow company also. So they have a lot of IoT and a lot of cloud tech as well. So getting involved in testing that has been super interesting. What we do is we are creating the next generation of automated QA. We put a lot of effort in developing new technologies and new stuff of taking into use AI. Well, AI is mostly PowerPoint nowadays, but machine learning is something that we are leveraging in our automated testing platform, making it easy to use and making it ubiquitous so you don't even notice it's there, but you get results. And also we are developing a lot of this cloud automation that you don't have to worry about what platform are you running the tests on, where does all the hardware live, and all of that. We are creating the next generation of automated QA. And basically to solve the number one bottleneck in software production. which is now testing. When you look about it from the developer, the software developer, it's pretty much the problem of I don't typically have time to write tests. I just want to be productive. I want to write good code. I want to deliver value fast in here, and tests just take a lot of time, and testing takes a lot of time. So the question is how to deliver value fast. And on the other side, on the IT operations side, how can I assure that these business processes actually run perfectly and flawlessly, so my business isn't at risk if I'm running faulty software? And this is the kind of domain that we work a lot in, and that's why we have a lot of this focus now on SAP and Salesforce, which I'm mostly talking about SAP today, as I have the cases that I have as SAP, but I can also show you a Salesforce demo of how we can actually automate Salesforce as well, and show you all the scripts. Those are also available, no problem. And in these domains, how can we fix this bottleneck in testing? But the one thing is, the bottleneck isn't really in testing, but it's in how you do it. And most of the organizations are still relying on manual testing, be it exploratory testing, be it exploratory testing, be it unit test, and all of these. Most of the stuff is still being done manually, even though now we have this big DevOps movement and all of these other movements pushing new technologies in and really putting the automation into the culture of every single company. Still, most of the testing is done manually, and end-to-end testing typically is done manually. And that's one of the main topics that we do testing in, how to ensure the whole software in the end-to-end way as in the top of the testing pyramid. By the way, if you have any questions, anything that you guys want to say, if I say something silly, I don't, you can hear me, just interrupt me and ask a question, as I'm hoping to keep this some level interactively, so I don't have to do a monologue for 30 minutes. You can always interrupt me, and I'm really happy to answer any kind of questions that come up, or if I don't explain something as well as I could. So please do that. For example, now we go into our product, Qentinel Pace, to solve that bottleneck problem on how to do automation in the cloud and how to do proper test automation so you get all the benefits out of it. And that's what we've been focusing on. The 3 points that we have the main focus on is, of course, speed. How well you can deliver the value and how fast you can deliver the value. The time to market is nowadays everything. You really want to get quality products out there. Second point is scalability. You want to be able to run the tests on your platform in really short time. Sometimes testing is a kind of a variable load problem. If you run typical unit tests, you have some kind of baseline, but then when you're approaching release dates, you typically have a lot of testing to be done on that point. So you want your environment to be able to scale, so you don't have to make those decisions that do we buy all this testing hardware for the main max load, or do we just buy just enough so that we can scrape do, and then on like these release days, we are really bottlenecked by the testing capability. We want to get rid of that. We offer all of that scalability from the cloud. We give you access to iPhones, we give you access to Android devices, and all of that, actually physical devices from the cloud, and also simulators and any kind of environment, be it Linux, Windows, Mac, that you can get access to from the cloud. So you don't have to do those investments in there. You can just scale the cloud resources. The third is the part that I was saying, that we're putting a lot of effort into machine learning and AI and all this other stuff. So you really want to be able to predict the quality of your software and you want your software quality to be predictable and be progressing in some kind of a way that you know what's going to happen in 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe even 1 month. So you know if you're on track in your development, or do you actually need to spend more time, for example, paying off technical debt. And those kind of things are the stuff that we put a lot of effort into, making our testing easy, very expressive, easy to read by everybody. So a lot of effort put into the communication side of it, so managers can read it, testers can read it, and people who are not developers can read it, and that even the developers are happy, even though it's kind of this low code approach. So you get we really put a lot of effort in there. But I'll give you a demo about our product in later in the demo. I'm gonna give you first a couple of things about the actual platform that we have and the actual stuff that we've done with it. So I'm gonna give you a couple numbers. And what we're going to say, this is from one of our customer cases that I'm going to demo, is actually the stuff that they managed to do with test automation and with our platform is actually getting efficient, scalable, and predictable with it. Those 3 promises that I was talking about. They're running 18,000 tests, end-to-end tests, 500 hours daily, and they only need 15% maintenance effort. This maintenance effort is something that comes up when you talk with testing professionals, but typically this is not something that people at first jump into. But this, I think, is the most important thing, that as now typically when you look at the Selenium, look at some of these other platforms, the maintenance efforts are close to 50% or even over 50%. I think this is the one thing where we've succeeded quite well. And the idea on this is that the same tests can be run on iOS, Android, and web because of the abstraction level. So you only need to maintain 1/3 of your tests, and they all work in there. Of course, if you have different kinds of user pathways in those 3 platforms, it totally changes. And also the release time of this customer's case was dropped from 5 days to actually 5 hours that it takes to deploy this. What I'm talking about today, we're going to talk about SAP ecosystem and the challenges in there. A couple of the customer cases that I selected, and I got some data, and of course, because some of the customers are quite picky in what they want to share about those cases, I have some older slides which been through all the reviews that these can be shared, and you know all of that, you know what it is like sometimes with big companies. So I'm going to show you some of the older slides with some of the older stuff in there, but they have all the data that we want to talk about SAP. So the first case is Metso. We're talking about a company that makes rock crushers for every end customer. I think their revenue is somewhere in the scale of 5 billion currently. So a big mining company operating in a lot of places around the world. And the challenge that they had is, of course, that these products that they have wide variations in their offering. They have a lot of customized stuff, and they have a big e-commerce service part of it that they're offering there. And what they noticed was that the testing compatibility of new features with the whole stuff that they have is really important, and they can only do it with test automation. As if you're going to test all the variations and all the combinations, but manually, it would just scale exponentially. So it is not really possible to actually do it manually. And I'll share these slides after. So there's some read more links in some of these on. All of the slides are available on the net, so you can then read more if you are interested in this. And the other cases that I just got the data from, I actually translated some of the slides like 15 minutes ago before this from Finnish to English, so I could share some of this stuff. That the Finnish tax office is really, I think, quite modern. They have a lot of the stuff comes there automatically. Basically, when I do my taxes, I don't do pretty much anything manually. They get all the information from all the stockbrokers, all payment info, and all of that is through APIs, and that's the kind of stuff. And of course, that creates a lot of stuff to be tested in there, and an enormous amount of testing needed from the vast amount of system that they connect to. And the same thing is there, that manual testing just cannot address such a massive case of regression testing. And these both are running that kind of systems in there. So I think this is also an interesting case in the results side on how those cases actually run, and what kind of data results they've gotten from this and how they've actually done it. So jumping into the older slides, so we have this case Metso. It's actually Metso Autotech, and as I said, it's operating in the mining, minerals and processing industry. My guess of or my memory of 5 billion was quite close, so 4.2. They operate globally, and they have 15,000 employees, 80 nationalities, big history in mining. And this is also something interesting that we've seen quite a lot now, that many of these kind of companies with the big history are now jumping on the DevOps and test automation bandwagon and really starting to upgrade their processes from the manual side, as basically internet connectivity is everywhere, 5G is everywhere, everything is connected. So you can also put a lot of stuff in the hands of basically the test automation. The case that we tested for them based on SAP is kind of their my.metso.com, this digital e-commerce platform that they are using to sell, I think, services, spare parts integrated with their storage, integrated with their SAP system that they have, and is also running the cloud. So this was something that we identified that could be really well handled by our testing system, and they were interested in this. And it's as I said, it's quite a complicated and big operations environment. There's the flow that typically happens in this is that, as I said, on the left side of the screen, equipment breaks down at customer site. They do maintenance, they get spare parts interpreters. They then go into the Metso sales reports or the e-parts service or the web store themselves. All of these different integrations have to work. You have to get the data into the SAP from there. They look up the spare parts required, look all of that from the storage, look at from the storage inventory, what's going on in there, who's actually going to supply that part. As said, these are not all supplied, for example, by Metso. There's a lot of subcontracting going on here. The orders are processed, going into everywhere through SAP. And I think you probably know how complex some of these systems get and how much legacy these systems have, that they're superbly old in there. And going through this whole process of getting the actual part delivered in there might probably involve like 20 to 30 different IT systems that cover all of this, and all are linked basically by SAP. What we did with them was basically trying to improve the online business with modern, easy-to-use online tools. So getting all of this whole pipeline working. They wanted to do web-based stores on top of it and getting the SAP working in there and getting the data from there. And as they said, they are supplying quite a big number of parts and capital equipment through that site. So that's the target site that we're testing. And they had the typical problems of data integrity, how to test the actual whole web store with updated data and keeping it in all the test data in some kind of an order that it actually works with newer versions and all of that. How does it actually work? And then, of course, when you have a lot of data, you have a lot of combinations with different distributors, part equipment. You have to do a lot of testing to make sure that the whole system works. And of course, if you do it manually, it's super laborious. And regression testing is, of course, important because it's one part of their core business. This whole thing has to work, or they're not getting any money in from maintenance or parts or anything else. And the customers, of course, will be quite unsatisfied with the fact that they're not getting their parts in. And this is why they want to have a really agile development mode in this and getting all of that working. Goals on in a bit of a different format. Actually, I didn't remember the slide was here, but that's what you get by using all the slides, to how to actually put in all of the automation in there and how to utilize automation to reduce manual work. I think that's the most important bit here, and how can you do it for this whole system. We started working with them in 2018. We rolled out the first versions of our test environment in there, helped them set up all the test scripts, getting from just the beginning on starting in the sprint mode, developing in that mode, getting new releases in, and cutting into a lot of different test scripts. I think 1,000 test scripts was done quite fast in 2018, and get that number into chair. Typically, as they said that in the beginning, they typically did one release every 5 months, but they actually got it down to quite low. When you look at 2019, we got a lot of multi-browser and multi-environment support implementing the project, increased a lot of the testing coverage also in there. And actually, as they said, they now were able to do 17 releases in 2019 on top of this legacy platform, which I think is quite impressive for the new e-commerce shop. Test scripts amount rose somewhat, and looking at the test execution hours, that's something that is, I think, 1 or 2, 3 manual testers. All of this is automated now. And looking into 2020, this is a bit of an older slide. As I said, they already had 1,500 test scripts in there, and with that kind of a level, they got pretty good coverage on that. And comparing the experience that they had testing this kind of a support system with manual testing, you had execution time for one distributor and 12 cases. Testing that one distributor that comes into the system typically took 20 minutes about. And of course, automated, doing all of this took 80 minutes and 25 seconds. And looking at this kind of a level, testing out the whole set that they had back then took manually about 52 hours. And of course, if you look at the calendar, that would be over 1 week of working time for people. But with the automation, it's less than one hour, as scripts can run 24/7, robots won't take breaks. And manual testing can then be focused on other problematic areas, as you have the baseline of all the automated tests in there. And kind of what we typically find in these SAP type of systems in this, this is all the online SAP environment, I'll be showing a demo soon, is that how the scope scope changes, as you typically know, when you change the scope of the project or testing, a lot of the stuff gets rewritten and stuff keeps forgetting into the source code. So a lot of bugs from configuration issues when you have a lot of different parameters. Systems get complex, and the interplay between those kind of configuration changes and all of that gets super complicated at some point. The amount of combinations is something that you cannot anymore test all of them, but there are some tools to, of course, help in that. When you have high combinatorial numbers of testing, you can optimize that again with the ML basically. And how to get all of these functional errors and problems in SAP environments out there. For example, this is a typical thing that when you build on top of SAP, you get the same kind of bugs and problems. When you build on top of it, you basically mirror that to the front end, and you basically port some of the features of SAP into your new e-commerce application that you're doing. So that's one of the problems that's also in there. But it's also something you typically catch when you're testing through the UI, and it's an easy way to do it. And what kind of benefits they got from that situation was that they can rely on regression testing. So the automated testing actually works on the bottom line. You are not scared of the fact anymore that are the actual regression test cases being run? Has somebody tested this? No, you can always go into the automation platform, check it out, and check what's been going on, what kind of resources have you gotten from there. And also because now you have this reliable base of testing, it's much more easier to go into this continuous development mode. And you can always go into the dashboards and do these go live decisions based on that data. And I think that's also super important on automation, that you can quite easily get those kind of results from there. And what kind of results we got from there was that the fast test automation helped them really put up the test and release time from 2 minutes. So really easy to scale up and switch into. They got release cycle added by over 5 times. Some of the test automation cases are 10 to 20 times faster. And reduced maintenance is over 25 to 50% that they are able to reduce their expenses in maintenance and testing. And that's 20 times more robust Selenium, which they replaced it in there. So that's a really big achievement. And I'm going to quickly go through case Vero, just to give you Vero is the tax office of Finland. Vero is basically Finnish for tax. And just quickly show you some numbers on that case that went there. I translated these slides like from the beginning of the whole thing. And I'm going to go through and then check the actual from Benjamin has. I'll translate for you. Basically, this is just giving you background on the project. It was a 130 million project on the whole of this whole project that they're doing. The 130 million of upgrades to their IT systems, and they decided that the testing in there is too critical and too difficult to do manually. They really want to get into test automation, and they really want to calculate how efficient this test automation actually is. And they wanted to calculate value for work and how much does it actually impact the scheduling. So easier they're actually implementing automation than previously with manual testing. And one thing was that it was quite difficult to actually calculate these kind of risk scenarios or how much did it improve the risk. It was left out of the actual qualitative analysis, but the results were that pretty much you have the baseline of automation helps you. What they got from this project, 2016 started, that and what they calculated was that the total investment into test automation for them was about 5.3 million, and the value of run tests compared to manual testing was about 164 million. So the calculated benefit of actually implementing test automation with us and with Robo Framework and the other tools that we're using is about 160 million in cumulative euros in this. I think that's a really big number showing actual data from a public source that what kind of impacts you can actually get with test automation on your bottom line. I think this is super interesting slide on how much automation can actually help you. The other thing is also how much work the actual automation does. So full-time equivalent work on this. Some of the parts are in Finnish because those are in pictures, so I couldn't translate them properly. But basically, this is the amount of work that the testing automation does. So how many test automation minutes and work it is actually doing, and you can see the kind of evolution of that in hours. And so in some of these places, there has been some cleaning of the tests and like improving what's actually going on there. So removing some redundant tests and all of that. The maintenance of course being going all there. And the big jump is when they actually started running against the second environment also there. So basically the gist of it runs a lot of testing, and it would have needed 2,155 manual tests to replace the whole automation amount that's been done here. So working full time for all of these years as the FTE in there. And also the amount of bugs that they found using test automation in this system is 833, and really conservative estimate of this is 500 euros per bug that it would have cost them if it went into production. And I think also this is quite conservative. If there's one like critical bug in taxation, it could result in really big problems in production. And with this 5,000 euro per bug, they calculated 2 million saved, a lot more speculative than the actual amount of saved. And looking also into the other side of it, how much it costs to run the tests and how much have they actually run tests is also of interest to them, as they actually want to optimize, of course, how much tax euros they are actually running on improving and testing the system compared to their investments in there. And they run 11.4 million tests in this 4 years. And the unit cost is represented on the right. So how much does it cost to test one test case? That dropped from 53 euros per test to 46 cents per test from the beginning of 2016. So 2 magnitudes of improvement there also using automation. So I think these cases kind of show the business case side of test automation in SAP and all of the others quite well on what's actually going on in there and what kind of like multiple orders of magnitude savings you can actually get by implementing automation. And yeah, some of that slideshow is over, so I'm going to show you a demo of what we're actually talking about and what kind of automation stuff we're actually doing with the Robot Framework and with the open source stuff. That I think it's always good to actually show, not just tell. Oh, there's a question chat. Sorry, I didn't notice that Maros was asking a question in the chat as I had the slides full screen. What do you mean about the results? Analyzing test results, but well, I show you the dashboards that we are using. You can of course immediately see the results from the test from the dashboards, so you don't have to go digging in. So ML stuff that we've already integrated in there is immediately kind of built in there, so it doesn't take any kind of extra steps. But of course, you can basically use as much time as you want to dig through those statistics or all the other stuff. To analyze. I think that's I don't. But we built some tools to help you with that. Let me share a part of the screen so you can actually see some of the stuff that I'm doing. Okay, here we go. So, okay, welcome to Qentinel Pace. This is the cloud platform that we are using to run our robot tests. Framework test. And what we do here is we can all the test runs here. We can check out all the test cases. We can check out all the execution environments and all the other stuff in there. I prepared a couple of demos. We have one as for on Chrome end-to-end tests, and then also we have some Salesforce tests on Chrome that I put. And this is like the main place where you start analyzing what's actually failed in your test cases. And I can now quickly, because you asked some of this, I can show you the kind of detailed test execution It takes a while to get the data and all that. What we've done is, I don't know how familiar you are with Dropbox framework, but we built this kind of quite cases. So SAP, I should have maybe shown you the actual test script before, but then we go through the whole case. You can see all the text, click text, sleep, click element, click text, verify text, type something into some field. So then verify input value is something that's problematic from the test run. You can see that, okay, we have the screenshot that's been taken at that point. These are the fields that our testing is interacting with. And it looks like that we didn't get any kind of an expected value of input values in this field. So for some reason, the purchasing group menu didn't work and it didn't autofill the 001 in here. So you can pretty much see extracted value, purchasing group 001. There's nothing in there. So now you go in. I don't know what. In my summer cabin in the middle of the woods in Finland. So some positives about remote working as well. Quickly check out what's actually going on in the test. Okay. If you have some, it seems like it's also downloading a little bit for me as well. So yeah, this is the actual test cases that you can run. You can actually edit them online, and we've put a lot of effort into making them readable and actually making the scripting language. You can quickly see on, and you can even talk about it without having deep programming language knowledge on what's actually going on. So it's all based on, if you look at it, we don't have that many actual keywords or anything like that here. We have click text, click element, and all of that. And it doesn't actually say anywhere, like it's not digging into HTML. It's not using XPath. It's just using the stuff that you see on the screen as well. So it's really relatable for humans. So the problem is that's the kind of thing that I was talking about, that this really helps with the test maintenance and all of that, that you know what it's actually clicking into and where it is actually putting the information into, and you can really quite easily from this see what should actually be happening in the test case. One exception that I think should be a little bit explained is this is row one, getting some of these table difficulty. Many testing tools, we've done this kind of a quite easy to actually access different parts of tables also as well. And looking simulate test case, basically this is like RPA, pretty much an RPA tool as well, that you can also do the same things, but test out the whole flow on what's actually happening in the case. Then we can create a supplier invoice. It's also quite a short case, preparing some stock to storage, involving that, and also looking at the same case with machine vision. This is something that you can see. These two cases are actually not that difficult. The idea is that our typical libraries, which use actually use the web browser or any kind of web technologies, is that the language in there is actually pretty much the same as in the machine vision version, because that's the whole idea, that all of this like AI and all this new really great technology is hidden behind the actual usage of the technology. Idea is that it's really simple to use these kind of two things that works in here, and it doesn't really involve the human that much, so you can just get the benefits without doing all the complex AI work or anything like that. Just getting the simple testing script that's in there. And I can go test execution. I'm just going to go back. I could have run from there, but I want to show you live test run. As you can always, if you have some problems with this, you can enable streaming video. What this does is it actually start running the test case on the And put on kind of a highlighting so you can actually see what's actually going there. Let's say how laggy my internet connection is. Hopefully you can make out some details from the video in here. And now the video is coming on. And you can see it's actually using SAP Trial for this test. So there's test organization in there. It's logging in. I'm not doing anything. All of this is automated and running on our servers. So the idea is that anything that you can log into, the system can also log into. It can interact with the system the same way as humans can. It can test out filling all of this. And actually now the purchasing group worked as well. All the information is being filled on the bottom. So how we're interacting with the tables, you can see that the blue boxes are there just to show you what the robot is actually doing. You're now going to the second test case of putting some inventory in and kind of automatically running all of these processes. You could do either testing or you can do RPA with this to automatically do stuff and even navigate to different websites, get information from elsewhere, and really help out in these kind of end-to-end cases where you have to interact with multiple systems. And SAP is typically being quite difficult to interact with. I think with our technology, we got good results. We haven't had any problems with it. Many people have said that Selenium, Cypress, and all the others have really problems with SAP's online UI on HANA, but we haven't had really any problems. I mean, you've seen from the test scripts that there are not too many tricks being used also in there, as that's basically the software. And all of this automation is running quite fluently, actually. And typically, of course, you wouldn't stream the video. This is kind of for debugging and analysis purposes, and of course, demoing purposes. It's quite easy to demo. If you have some problem with it, for example, with a script, you can quite easily put on the video streaming, see what's actually happening in the test case, and then you can quite easily analyze. For example, now we can kind of see that the video froze for the sales. There's actually the last test case is designed to fail in this demo, so you can actually talk about it now. So that it actually fails, and you can kind of see that it froze here. So there's some problem with clicking the sales, and then it kind of find that one image that is looking for, and we'll soon be getting the results when it times out. There it goes, and it actually even then logs you off of the system after the failed test case, so it doesn't crash on the failed test case. It still closes the test case gracefully, and we get out of the video. We can see, okay, sales order was failed. We can go into this report, and we can see that it cannot find this create sales order, which is not this argument that's left empty now for demo purposes. We don't have I don't think we have too much time to go into, but we can save that. You can save these kind of variables also into our web environment, so you can use those. For example, for passwords, that you don't want to give people passwords, so you can just use these kind of arguments for those to really hide those. Then people who are actually making test cases, for example, subcontractors, can easily use those passwords without them even knowing them through our own platform. So yeah. I don't remember if we had 1 hour or 45 minutes, but I think we pretty much covered the demo. We can tell if you have interest, we can check out some of the Salesforce stuff if you want to. But one thing that you can do is just go into Cantona.com, and there's a free trial. This is free to use. So there's 60 minutes of free. Kind of 3 months. So if you have small testing loads, you can. I don't think the sign up page is not working for me as I'm already logged in, but let's see. Yeah. It says you would need to log out if you new account, so it doesn't work for me. But it's quite easy to go in there. You get 60 minutes of free testing time in there that you can check out, and it's all based on robot framework. So all the test cases are portable. We have basically QWeb also on GitHub if you want to check it out. Part you can also close to the end of my running execution. I'm just sharing my full screen, so it's see that. There it goes. Low kind of hack. The video is from live execution, from the running one, and then of videos. The you can then decide to save those videos either on failed cases or just every single case that you want. You can check those, or you can and all of that. All this stuff is also in here, and it's quite easy to connect also to GitHub. We have GitHub Actions. We have connectors to Microsoft tooling. All of this is, of course, connected there, and quite easy to handle all of that stuff in there. So I think I pretty much covered my presentation stuff. So on any kind of QA session, I'm open for any questions that you didn't already ask. This has been informative about test automation and the economical and business benefits of it, and then also showing you a bit of a live demo on what it actually means. The video connection for a second, so maybe I wouldn't be disconnecting that much. I see Maro is at least typing something.
I will ask via audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that deep to robot framework right now, because it's one of the all frameworks in the world. Just to understand, you were comparing against Selenium. Yeah. So I just would like to know how you're driving a browser in behind if you are not using Selenium library for robot framework.
We are actually using our custom version of that Selenium library, but yeah.
Okay, so
we are using it on there, which is kind of custom made for us for the QWeb library. Actually, check out the. I'll send you the link to the QWeb, for example, which is the open source version of our library, which interacts with the browser. I'll put it on chat so you can actually go and check it out. It's using Selenium driver in there, but if you're using just bare bones Selenium is the comparison. If you do all of your testing in Selenium script, then it's building it on top of Robot Framework makes it quite much more robust.
Yeah, definitely. I will have a look. Thanks.
And also, we've had now experiments going on with Playwright, if you know that. So there's also a Playwright library for Robot Framework, and we've also been experimenting with that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's Google Tech originally, or Facebook. I don't remember where it came.
One more question I was asking regarding that stream. Yep. But your audio were lagging a little bit. Yeah. So what we have seen that stream is directly from online running test, or it's just after step, the recording.
You can do both. It's actually, you can enable streaming, so then it streams it live. And then you can also enable recording, so that it basically also records that stream for you, and you can review it later. There's also an option to only record failed test cases if you have big sets, so you typically don't want to record all the successful cases. You're only interested in the failed ones.
And one more question. Are you driving also SAP GUI, standalone GUI, or only via web?
We can also do the standalone GUI. We can do any Windows application. But for this demo, I just used the online one as it's easier to set up, as we don't have a physical setup on any of our testing machines which runs that. So we just have the online for demoing. But we also have this feature called Pace Connect, which basically enables us to connect to any Windows machine or any Linux machine and run any application in there through this machine vision API. So it doesn't matter if it's in the browser, it doesn't matter if it's in its own application. I can give you some links also to those so you can kind of figure out what I'm talking about. But the idea with the way that we write tests is it doesn't matter if the tests are running on the browser or if they're running on the actual Windows machine using Windows Accessibility API, or if they're running on either one of these using machine vision. All of that technology is hidden behind the library. You just use the keywords which basically say click input password, input text, my secret password, yada yada. So the scripting is basically the same on all of the platforms, even though the technology is a bit different underneath.
Cool. One more question. So based on your answer, so I'm able to integrate a machine in my environment where SAP is running to your cloud via some interface, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And it's set up in such a way that we only have an outbound connection from your environment. So you don't have to, if you have, for example, corporate IT or something like that, so they don't have to open any ports or anything like that. You can set it up in such a way that the connection is outbound from your deployment environment. So it's easy to set up.
And regarding security, do you have some solutions for security? I mean, if my corporate data are corporate, or how to say, and I would like to test and have results in a cloud.
Yes. We have what we call what is it in English? Sorry, my English isn't working. Kind of like an obfuscator in between. You have the option of basically getting all the results from this local environment to the cloud, so you can access it through our cloud interface. You can interface it, of course, with corporate security like AD groups from Microsoft or other kind of login systems that you have. So all the access tokens go through there, so you don't have to have a separate system. So you can have all the login go through there. But then if you don't want any of that information going into the cloud, you can kind of do this obfuscation in between. You can choose different levels because all the data that comes out of ROBO framework is basically XML or soon hope to be JSON. You can basically choose which objects do you want to pass through or which ones do you want to remove. If you, for example, have something that's super secret or mission critical or something like that you don't want to hit the cloud in any phase, you can only get the testing results in there, or you can activate the tests from the cloud if you want to.
Great, impressive. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think Marcel had very good questions, and hopefully I'm saying your name right. I'll just quickly show you also now, if you have a couple of minutes time still. I'm going to show you the kind of way that we handle these, what I said, connectors. It's something that we call Pace Connect. So basically, the idea is that you install an agent into a machine, and it basically then you tell what capabilities that machine has, and you can run tests either in our cloud, or if you have, for example, we have some stuff going on in automotive side that they have like actual dashboard, like Android Automotive IoT stuff with all the sensors. They have that in there. You can say it's a capability here, and when they need that capability, they can go into a system. They know the system can automatically pick up the hardware which has the right kind of version installed and all of that, and it doesn't need any custom stuff. It can then just run it on the cloud and also the kind of either Robo framework, install it there in the pre-installs, or then through Kubernetes, Docker Compose, for example. So it's quite easy to also add capabilities to the cloud. And you can get this also, of course, on mobile Windows and Docker versions for our stuff that you can connect then to the cloud. So everything doesn't have to run the cloud if you don't have to, but then you can handle and manage everything. You don't have to be with the
I have one more question. Are you providing also some trainings how to interact or how to work with all your system framework and so on? Probably I lost audio.
Hello.
from Henri.
Yeah, since my sorry, my internet connection dropped for a while. I'm sorry about the bad connection. Now I can hear you.
What I was asking is if you are also providing trainings for speeding up integration of your platform.
Yes, we're also doing and that's why we're also talking here with that. We have online resources. Let me go into Qentinel.com. And we have training. I'll put the link in here into the chat. We have online certification training available. And these are kind of things that you can do online by yourself. And then we are also organizing actual training where we do training sessions on you. And if you want to get experience with trying Qentinel Pace, we can kind of set you up for training sessions and doing the training. We have this customer success team, which will organize training custom also for your company if needed. And if you want to get more information on that, you can also do it from here. So there is all the information is on our website about contact us form, and we can always help from there.
Yeah,
so our idea is
that
we do the tooling. And I think we are quite close to running out of time. I want to thank everybody who came in here, and thanks for listening. Hopefully it was interesting. Hopefully the facts and all of that was really good. And thanks for Tesena for having me and hosting us. I think it's been a good thing. And thank you, Maros, for really good questions. And if you don't have anything else, I'll gladly say to you, have a great rest of the week and rest of the day.